Leviticus chapter 24. Leviticus 24 now takes a different turn in the narrative. The instructions that God is giving now is to Moses. So we can say the Lord is speaking to Moses. All the discussions with Aaron, the sons, and then the children of Israel is already done. And now specifically to Moses, the instructions are now with regards to some of the work that needs to be done inside the tabernacle and eventually inside the temple when they have the temple. And so in verse 2, it says, command the children of Israel. Now the word command here is to literally give an order, right? Give order. I guess like in the army when the general gives an order. So this is what it means by command. Sava is tell you what to do and go do it. So it is not an option. It's like a parents telling the children to wake up in the morning. It is not an option. So it's an order. So command the children that they bring to you pure oil of pressed olives for light, to make the lamps burn continually. Now, one of the things that you would remember is that inside the tabernacle, as well as inside the eventual temple that Solomon builds, the tabernacle itself, you remember they don't have electricity and they don't have skylight. So when the tent is put over and the cloth is put over the tent, it would be absolutely dark. And when it's absolutely dark, then any light will be a bright light. And so God wants the light to be burning continuously. Number one, it needs to be pure oil from pressed olives to make the light. So olives, as you know, is a fruit from the olive tree. And the olive tree will be pressed, and I will show you the press. And that will be used to burn the lamp. And it means that as long as the tabernacle is up, the lamp must be lit. Let's finish all these 3 verses before we take a look at some pictures. Now, outside the veil of the testimony, that would be the veil that separates the sanctuary, the holy place, from the Holy of Holies. Okay, there is a veil that separates the two. In the tabernacle of meeting, Aaron shall be in charge of it from evening till morning before the Lord continually. When the word continually here, what it means is it just have to keep going, right? It just keeps going, just keep doing it. And so it shall be a statute forever in your generations. He shall be in charge of the lambs, of the pure gold lampstand before the Lord continually. So basically, these instructions is given to Moses, and Moses is supposed to tell Aaron that the lighting is his responsibility. Now, let me just show you a couple of pictures so you can see. These are olives, okay? Olives. And these are the olive fruits, which are olive from the olive tree. What you see in the supermarket are the pickled olives. There are a few types. There is the green type, and there is a dark type. This one here, it starts green and eventually it gets brownish. But the dark one is almost black. But they are all same, right? They are all olives. Now, this is a picture from Nazareth. And this is how in the days of the Second Temple in the 1st century, they will use this actual contraption, as you can see right here, this is a big log and it's very heavy and it spans all the way down, right? And that's a fulcrum. So what they do is that they will pull this down, and these little notches, right? It will enter and crush the olives that is placed in the holes. And so what they do is they make sure that the first press is called what we would call today the extra virgin first press, and that would be the first time the oil comes out, and it's very pure. The second time it's pressed is what we call virgin olive oil, and it's used for cooking. The third press is where it's called the final press, and that final press is used for lights, for lighting. Okay, so this is how they have been doing it for many years, and this is the contraption to press olives. Now, the lamb actually is on a lamb stand. So these are all lambs. Okay, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7 in the middle. And that is what Aaron is supposed to keep putting oil, that the lamb continually burn. Now, a picture of how that may look like, and this is an artist's impression. The lampstand is actually quite big. I remember going to the Temple Institute in Jerusalem, and they have a replica of the menorah, right? The replica of the menorah. And it is taller than me. So they need to be on a platform to actually put oil into the lamp holder, and then light the wick, and so the wick will continually burn. And that is the role of how the lighting is done inside the sanctuary. So we have just covered these 4 verses, and you remember the lampstand. The lampstand is gold, right? Pure gold. Aaron is in charge of the lamps. Pure oil of pressed olives, right? That is used for lighting. It's to burn continually. Remember, this is to bring light into the sanctuary, and that is the only light that is available in the sanctuary. And you'll be very bright indeed. Okay. Now, I think in Exodus 25, I think we can do a quick revision here. Exodus chapter 25, verse 31 says, "You shall make a lampstand of pure gold. The lampstand will be of hammered work," which means that it's shaped using the artisan's skills of hammering it in place. "There will be a shaft and branches and bowls and knobs, and flowers shall be of one piece," which means this: the menorah is one piece, okay? And these are the bowls, all in one piece. "And 6 branches shall come out of its sides, 3 branches out one side, 3 branches out the other." So you can see from here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. And then the 3 bowls shall be made like almond blossoms on one branch, with an ornamental knob and a flower. And 3 bowls like blossoms on the other branch. So we're talking about these ones here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay. On the lampstand, there'll be 4 bowls that should be made like almond blossoms, each with a knob of flour. There should be a knob under the first 2 branches, a knob. Now, all these are descriptions of what the lampstand, or what we call the menorah, will be. And most importantly, the characteristic, it shall be of pure gold. You shall make 7 lamps for it. They shall be arranged and to give light in front of it. And its wick trimmers and trays shall be of pure gold. It shall be made of a talent, that's the weight of gold, on these utensils. And see to it that you make them according to the pattern which was shown you on the mountain. Now, the background of this lamp, the menorah, of 6 branches coming out from the sides and 1 in the center, would be 7 lamps made of pure gold. And it is by design of God. So one of the things that you eventually will see, that whatever is inside the tabernacle and eventually the temple is it's God's place, God's rules, God's barang-barang, so to speak. And that's how God wants it to be, and that's how it must be. Now, we shall see a slightly different thing here, and it's about the bread. He says, verse 5, you shall take fine flour and bake 12 cakes with it. Now, this is very important. 12. Not 5, not 7, but 12. And we'll come back to this 12 shortly. It says, with the 12, you make it with 2/10 of an ephah in each cake, which gives you the size of the content in the ingredients, right? And then you shall set them in 2 rows, 6 in a row, on a pure gold table before the Lord. Okay? What does this mean? This would be the table of showbread. And how will it be lined up? Very interesting. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's where you get 12 loaves. And it must be there. And then it says, and you shall put pure frankincense on each row, that they may be on the bread for a memorial. And so frankincense is smeared on top. It's like sprinkle, right? Like chocolate sprinkle. An offering made by fire to the Lord. Every Shabbat you shall do this, which means that every time the Shabbat comes, it must be there for the Lord continually, and being taken from the children of Israel by an everlasting covenant. And this is for Aaron and his sons, and they shall eat it in a holy place. For it is most holy to him from the offerings of the Lord made by fire, a perpetual statute. Why is it a fire? Because of the baking, right? You need fire to bake the 12 cakes. And these 12 cakes are set there, and then every time the Sabbath comes, you change the 12 cakes. And these 12 cakes are then to be eaten by Aaron and his sons. Now, these are called the showbread. The showbread is 12, right here, because there are 12 tribes of Israel. And God places them, and it says, you shall put them before the Lord, meaning in front of God, on this gold table, 6 in a row. And you sprinkle the incense, and then they eat it on every 7th day, right? And with the new cakes coming in, the old cakes are taken out and it's eaten. This is actually a very holy, a very special arrangement that God made, such that God is duly reminding himself, and by them looking at it, it's like the Israelites or the children of Israel, the 12 tribes, is always before the eyes of God. That's what the 12 loaves actually mean. You can see that God cares for Israel so much that symbolically, he even placed it in this very specific way, so that the 12 tribes of Israel is always before the eyes of God. Now, from verse 10, something happened. It is an event that happens, and this event is written down in Leviticus. And you must remember, the book of Leviticus do not have many events. And when such events are done, these events represent in the same consistent manner of instructions given by God. So these events are part and parcel of the instruction. So if you look at verse 10, so this incident happens this way. We're talking about the son of a couple. The couple is made up of an Israelite woman. And later we'll know that she is from the tribe of Dan. The father was an Egyptian. And so they must have come out of Egypt, right, together. And so they went out among the children of Israel, and this Israelite son and a man of Israel. Now, you must know there is a distinction here. When the father is Egyptian and the mother an Israelite, the son is actually an Israelite because the nationality comes from the mother, but the lineage comes from the father. Now, in this particular case of this son, he has no lineage because his lineage is an Egyptian. That's what it means. When it says here, a man of Israel, it means that both the father and mother are of Israel. And so the man of Israel has a tribe and a lineage. That's why it's specifically said this way. So these two boys fought each other in the camp. And the Israelite woman's son, which is this son, to blaspheme the name of the Lord and cursed. The word blaspheme here actually means to puncture. To poke at the name of God, to poke holes at the name of God, and he made the name common, of no value. And so we have the word cursed. And so this whole picture here is given to us that this particular son took the name of God, and this is literally the name, right? The name of God, and he cursed the name of God and poked holes at the name of God. That's what it means by blaspheme. And this is a very serious offense. And that is why it is found here. They brought him to Moses. The mother's name was Shelomit, right? Shelomit, the daughter of Divri, the tribe of Dan. Very, very small tribe, right? And then they put him in custody. What do you mean in custody? The word here, custody, means he is in confinement. Like a prison, like being guarded, right? They put him there, that the mind of the Lord may be shown to them what to do with this person. Now, it is important that we need to understand they are actually looking at the mind of the Lord. What is the mind of the Lord? They're looking at how God would judge. Because they don't know what to do. They have never had the situation where somebody really don't care about the name of God and simply use it and make fun of it and poke holes of it and poke at it and made it of no value that is worse than their own name. Now, the reason why they brought him to Moses is because they considered this a very serious offense. Because they treat God as the creator God, and you're not supposed to simply talk about his name. And by name, we also mean two things, right? The character of God, and of course, the particular way of pronouncing the name of God, right? Now, verse 13 comes. The Lord spoke to Moses. This is what God has decided. Verse 14 tells you this. Take outside. Take outside means go out. Do not deal with this in the camp. Go outside and deal with it outside the camp. Him who has cursed, kalau, make slight, or make common, defile God's name, treat it as nothing, right? Of no value. And then let all who heard him say that, lay their hands on his head. So put their hand on his head. If you have heard him say this, then stone him. Now, this is important for us to understand because in the old days, the word stone him here means to kill by stoning. So they would take stones, and everyone in the camp who is gathered there will take stones and strike at him. And the whole intent here is not just to hurt, but to kill. This is a very primitive, archaic way of execution. Then you shall speak to the children of Israel, saying, whoever curses his God shall bear his sin. What does it mean to bear his sin? He must carry his own misses. You have been guilty of grievance against God. And in this case, you will carry this guilt, right? You will bear it, you will carry it. And so whoever blasphemes, remember, blaspheme means to puncture, to poke holes at God's name. And look at the judgment. The judgment is extremely severe, surely be put to death. And just now we read, by stoning. Okay? All the congregation shall certainly stone him. The stranger, so look at this, the stranger as well as him who is born in the land. Two groups of people, the foreigner and the Israelite. Who's born there. When he blasphemes the name of the Lord, he shall be put to death. So I just want to point out to you that this shall be put to death. There's no remedy. There is no atonement. You can keep your goats. God says, if you do this, you will die. Because you have no honor of my name. You don't care who I am. Then why should God care who you are? That's how this entire description is working. Verse 17. Whoever kills any man shall surely be put to death. This is the second death penalty. If you kill another person, what do you mean when you kill another person? Well, in verse 17, the word kill another person is to strike. Is to strike at that person. Okay? To strike, to slay. You know, when you fight, you take something and you strike at somebody else, right? If you do that, you will surely die. And this is what it means. Surely be put to death means surely die. That's one. The second one is if you strike an animal. When you strike an animal, you must strike it completely. Right? Must be complete. Whoever kills shall make it complete. Animal, soul for soul. Right? Soul for soul. So this is what it means. If you kill a man, you will die. If you kill an animal, you shall make it good. Right? An animal for animal. So you must pay back. Pay back the debt. Verse 19. If you cause disfigurement. Now this is the same word that we saw yesterday. Physical blemish of his neighbor. As he has done, so it shall be done to him. Meaning, if anyone harms another person, then the same harm will come to him. Fracture for fracture. Fracture means you break his hand, is break. Then your hand will be broken. An eye for eye. What do you mean eye for eye? Eye in place of an eye. So if you take the person's eye, then that person will take your eye. If you take his tooth, he will take your tooth. That's the judgment. As he has caused physical blemish of a man, so it shall be done to him. So that's a principle. You cut his hand, he'll cut your hand. That will be the judgment. And whoever kills an animal shall restore it. Now in verse 21, the word restore is to make complete. This is shalom. When you finish making complete restoration, then you have shalom. That's how we will understand this. Okay? This would be shalom, and you will get a shalom. So restoration is a shalom. Shalom. Peace would be shalom. Same root word. Okay. But whoever kills a man shall be put to death. a life for a life. I think we can remember this when we came to Exodus, not Exodus, Genesis chapter 9, right? A life for a life. You shall have the same law for the stranger and for your own country, for I am the Lord your God. What does this mean? It's a very, very clear statement here. There must be one law. That's what it means. God only has one law for everyone, the non-Israelite and the Israelite. When it comes to the sanctity of life, there is no Israelite and non-Israelite. Everybody is treated the same. And God, each time when he makes this statement, I am the Lord your God. It is to tell them, this is my character. I value life. If you take life, you pay for it. If you take an animal, you must restore it. Okay? And so it doesn't matter who did this. Whether you are Israelite or non-Israelite, God will take an account for such things. Which tells us that even if you're not Israelite, God will hold us responsible if you kill somebody else. If you kill your neighbor's animal, you must pay for it. Restitution, right? And so God says killing another person has to pay with life. Blaspheming God, you have to pay with your life. And so that is how God says one law for the entire country. Okay? And with that, we will go to our last verse, verse 23. Then, this will be after everything up there has happened, and then Moshe spoke to the children of Israel, and they took outside the camp with him who had cursed. That is the Egyptian father, the son of the Egyptian father, and the Israelite mother. Stoned him with stones, executed him, and killed him with stones. So the children of Israel did as the Lord commanded Moses. We come to the conclusion of chapter 24 to give us a very serious and sober note. There are certain things that God is not about to have leeway. If you curse my name, you die. You kill another person, you die. It doesn't matter who you are, whether you are of Israel or not of Israel, there is only one law. That is what Moses is supposed to tell them. So the first part is regards to the tabernacle and what Aaron should be doing, of regards to the lamb, which is the menorah, and with the showbread, which are 12 loaves. And then the second segment would be on treatment of blasphemy of God's name. You poke at God's name. You curse God, where you treat it as nothing, right? No value, like dirt. You throw it on the floor. God's name means nothing. God means nothing, basically. And God says, this person will die. Since you consider me nothing, I'll consider you nothing. So death by stoning. And the law is do not do it. Doesn't matter who you are. And with this, we complete chapter 24. Any questions?
Pastor, what about the modern law of killing someone? I mean, 係犯法啦，咁樣 dead by hanging like drugs. 點樣解釋?
Okay, these are our common day law, which may have derived in principle from the law of Moses, right? So God gave this to Moses to make sure that everything is fair. Now, what you will know is there are lots of details that we cannot tell. How do you make sure that the witness is clear? How do you make sure that this person actually said it? And under what conditions do you kill and execute the person? All of these details come from what we call the oral Torah. What we are reading here is called the written Torah. These are the main points. The sub-points will have to come from the traditions, saying that you have to pick up a stone, how big the stone is, how far you throw the stone, because we are not told how do you stone a person. And so the oral Torah will tell them that you pick this kind of stone, you throw it at the person. When do you consider the person dead? Why do you charge a person? Does a person have a chance to repent? All these things. You must make sure that you don't kill the wrong person.
Yeah.
So there is what we call oral Torah to guard and guide the processes, which is not here in this chapter.
Oh.
Right? But all the chapter is trying to tell us is God is serious. Don't mind with him. That's basically the story here. Make sure we honor God and understand God and know God for who he is. So he is not a Chintai God. He is a God that is of honor. So we do not disrespect him, else he would disrespect us. So that would be the theme of chapter 24, I think.
Yeah, because keep on saying, for I am the Lord your God. Yeah,
So according to verse 20, it looks like there's no mercy.
Eye for an eye, tooth for tooth. 係咪？有仇報仇係咪？ Seems like it.
The principle is in verse 19, right?
If a
If
man,
you cause any disfigurement, this would be the physical blemish lah. We read this word before when we talked about sacrifice. You do not bring an animal that has blemish.
Disfigurement, yeah.
So no, the lamb cannot be one eye jack,
Yeah.
He cannot have 3 legs only instead of 4.
Cannot.
Then he can have 1 leg longer than the other. That kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
So if a man calls it to the neighbor, then it shall be done to him. Do unto others what you want others to do to you, right?
Yeah.
So if you do to others, you can expect it to come back to you. That's basically this theme here.
But I mean in a Chinese sense 聽到好似有仇報仇咁樣喎。
Actually, this is not vengeance. This is not vengeance. This is judgment. Meaning, if a man causes physical blemish to the neighbor, then there must be proof. There must be eyewitness saying that he did this, and it's clear he admit his guilt. Then he will have the same disfigurement. You burn him, he burn you, right? You break his hand, he'll break your hand. Just be sure that you don't do it to other people. Otherwise, you think that you can be, I break your hand then, but nothing is going to happen to me. God says, no. You touch that person, God's law says you will break your own hand as well. So whatever you do to somebody else, that same thing will be done to you. So that's why we have the old saying, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth.
Is it more for with karma thing?
Say again?
Is it more with the karma thing?
No. The Hinduism and Buddhism karma is more of what comes around, what goes around comes around. That you've sown some bad seeds, then the eventual bad fruits will come. That would be the karma, right? In this case, this is a judgment. If you blind your neighbor, and he challenges you, accuses you, brings testimony against you, and it's proven that you have actually done it, then the judgment is held by the elders upon you, then he will blind your eye. So it is not karma, but it is judgment. All of these are all judgments. Okay, all judgments. It is not you wait until 5 years down the road, then you fall down and then you got blind. It's not that. This is judgment. real punishment.
Pastor,
Yes.
what about in the New Testament, they will say that somebody will come and say, I will pay for this. I will pay for the victim, not victim, the person who is supposed to be, say, blinded. But since he's a young man, the old man will say, I will come and pay for the eye, you know. So is it possible according to the law of God here?
If you look at this particular law, verse 19, right? This whole thing here, and if you read carefully, right? You read carefully.
Stand.
Whoever commits the crime pays for the crime. You cannot blind somebody's eye and then
Get away.
your friend's eye get blinded on your behalf. It doesn't work that way. This is to make sure that you don't go and poke people's eye.
Yeah.
There is no rule. Actually, if you think about it, this is the fairest law, I guess. Nobody can replace you. You know, if you break somebody's hand, you cannot say, I will bring my servant here, you break his hand. Then you can break anybody's hand and you don't feel anything. And so God says, you must feel, because you place hurt on somebody else, then the right thing to do is you must feel it yourself so that you won't do it again.
Yeah.
So you have to be responsible for your actions.
God only holds the person responsible. God cannot hold your children responsible. God cannot hold somebody else's family responsible because it's not fair. The other person did not do anything wrong. You did wrong. So God will only hold that person. So when you go and read something like Ezekiel 18, right? Remember we did Ezekiel 18? The person who does it, the soul that sins, it shall die. Basically that. You cannot say somebody else take my punishment. It's not fair.
But Malaysian law, I think they have got this juvenile, that means children who are underage, and they hold the parents responsible for the children's action.
No. Not even Malaysia. No, they don't.
No.
Juvenile means you treat the person who is underage, instead of the full adult punishment, you will punish the person in a different way to teach the person. So it could be in a school. He won't go to jail. He will be in a different thing, rehab, things of that nature. But if you are tried as an adult, then the full weight of the law is upon you. Now, if you remember when we have gone through the whole book of Leviticus, I also mentioned to you, there are different levels of sin, remember? There are sins that you can bring an atonement, right? You bring a bull if it's serious. You bring a goat if it's less serious. And you bring a bird when it is less serious, right? Or you bring some grain offering. But the idea here is this. Even in our kind of law, there are laws that when you run the red light, you don't get executed. You pay a fine. But when you run the red light and knock somebody down and kill him, that's a whole different story.
Sister, I thought the sacrifices, the atonement, when you bring bull or bird or grain, is according to whether you are rich enough.
Oh, no.
When was that according to whether you can
there
afford?
are some of the minor sins. The minor sins, right? All of these are unintentional sins where you've made some mistakes and you became unclean, and then you did things where you are not supposed to do with regards to clean and unclean before God. And so you can atone for that. But when you kill somebody, there is no atonement, If you look at it this here, whoever kills a man shall be put to death. God doesn't say you bring a bull and then everything will be fine. There is no such thing. So whenever you read, he will be cut off, he will be stoned to death, and whoever kills shall be put to death. These are all serious crimes. And I use the word crimes and offense, not sin. So in our modern day, the equivalent would be this. You forgot to pay your parking, and so you got a ticket, right? You park for 1 hour, you park for 2 hours, but you only put ticket for 1 hour. So you get a ticket. If you run a red light, well, that's heavier fine, right? But these are what we call fines, small things that you forgot. But then when you intentionally go and kill someone, you rob someone, you go and attack the palace, right? You cause an upheaval in the public. There is no fine, you know. When you are arrested, you pay for your crime. So there will be jail sentences, as well as, depending on how serious you have done it, it could be hanging. So in this case, when you kill somebody, there's nothing to talk already.
So verse 19 to 22 is about crime and not sin.
Crime, not sin, yes.
Okay.
You notice this has nothing to do with I touch a dead body and then I made an offering. Then the animal I brought wasn't so clean, right? No, that kind of thing is nothing of those nature. You poke somebody's eye, well, when you're caught, be prepared, your eye will be poked too. Basically, the principle is there must be what we call commensurable. I don't know whether that's the right word. Commensurable. Meaning this, if you break somebody's hand, you don't get killed. Your hand will be broken. So it is equivalent. The weight of the punishment is equivalent to the weight of the crime. If it's an eye, you don't break a teeth. You break an eye, right? You break a teeth, then you get your teeth broken, but you don't get killed. That is the principle here. I think one of the things that you can do a takeaway is this. God is very fair. He treats the crime with the due weight of judgment and never exceeding. Never exceeding. So when you fracture somebody's hand, you don't get stoned to death. You see that? And if you happen to kill your neighbor's animal, then be prepared to restore it. So an animal is not equivalent to a man, ma. This is all respect for the sanctity of life. And God is a fair God. So actually what you can say here is God really is a fair God. He doesn't punish you greater than your crime. And we are to know that we are responsible for what we do. And nobody else can take our place.
Pastor, can you differentiate for us differences between crime and sin?
Okay. It's actually quite easy. If you look at the first few chapters, I think almost 17 chapters, from chapter 1 all the way to about the dietary law, what you eat, what you don't eat. So you ate an unclean animal, so you atone lah. You don't have to die for it, ma. Right? It's an oversight. I accidentally ate it, or I touch a dead body, that kind of thing. And all these have to do with our coming to God, approaching God, and we need to be holy. When it comes to these things here, These will be done against other people, right? Against other people. And in the earlier verses, blasphemy and cursing God's name shall be stoned. All of these are then called intentional sin, or if you intentional crimes, if you want to call it. And the punishment for those will be death. There is no atonement. If you blaspheme the name of God, just now when we read that, remember the judgment was you take this young man out of the camp and you stone him. If you know exactly that he's done that, anyone who blasphemes the name of God, God doesn't care. There is no what we call atonement. Same thing here. If you hurt your neighbor, be prepared to be hurt. If you kill your neighbor, then you should be killed. Can you see a difference? When you go against God, there is no turning back. There's no atonement. You have to repent. Okay?
Okay.
All right. See you tomorrow.
Yeah.